Yesterday, I published something that was a little more stock, a little more normal for the channel. But this one, I think this is one we all need to learn from and something that we, especially as tanks, really need to be cautious of because really the decision that happens in this key that ultimately turns it into a 2-minute recording is one that I made. It's something I chose to do, and I failed the key because of it. So let's talk exactly about what happens here. And I just want to start by saying that this kind of conversation that's happening here in general chat, it's just like what we have in the run I published yesterday. Like I get it, there's a lot of people who are not very mature or like professional or I don't know. They're just doing whatever they want and they're having fun, I guess, along the way. That's fine. I try to just look at it as banter, but honestly, when these ridiculously childish conversations happen before keys start, it makes me a little bit on edge. It makes it hard for me to respect the group. It makes me hard to fit in. I feel like I don't fit in with the group. Let's put it that way. So we are doing a miss key. And for probably about 10 minutes prior to this key, we're talking about how we need to skip. Okay. Now, I would heavily recommend doing some form of skip and miss. We made a big comment about this in the missed guide. If you haven't seen that, check it out. But it's a very important thing to do on any week because not necessarily also because the trash is difficult, but it's mostly because then you can get bloodlust sooner in the dungeon. And I'll tell you, I cannot say this enough. The amount of groups I see that are passable, like they're fine, but they don't get good bloodlusts in on this dungeon, it really does harm the key, especially on a tyrannical week. So we're thinking about that, thinking about how to execute that. So I agree that we should definitely be skipping here. But the ultimate decision we make here is that we are going to use an Invis potion to skip this pack and then use a Warlock portal to skip the second pack. So if we have a rogue, we don't need to do this. One of the conversations I always have about these types of skips here is, are the potions going to be backup for the boss? Because if they're not, there's no reason to do it. Like a DPS potion on a boss, especially like this one, where the boss is taking like a bunch more damage during Bloodlust, there's no way that whatever skip this is going to be more efficient than just using the potion there. But, you kind of have to get through it because there's no way, nobody is going to disagree that skipping is a good idea on one of these first 3 packs. This pack, I don't really feel like you need to skip. This pack, I certainly do like skipping. And then this pack over here that you can't see, it's obviously a must skip. You're always skipping that. But the problem is what comes next. So we dedicate to this. So this is more important than it looks, okay? Sure, it looks rudimentary, but there's a reason it's a 2-minute key. We have now just committed to a skip that has permanence. If we fail it, it's done. We can't do it again. There's no way to do this again other than go back and not skip it. So that's an end of a key. That's a key ending mistake there. And it could actually cause more problems than you think in a myths because the weird, you need a Night Fae to be able to skip, and maybe some people forget it, even if they have Night Fae. I've had that happen where people release and they're back at the start, and they just have apps. They literally can't get back to us because of skips we pulled off. So anyway, we're gonna get over here. I wasn't actually fully aware of this, how safe this was, but it does look pretty safe. They kind of bank a hard left there. But so yeah, we are going to sit here and wait for these people, and then we're going to use the portal, and we're going to go over here. So here is the ultimate error. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about everything that happens here. So before the key, they were talking about doing something very aggressive here, and that was pulling these 4 mobs with the lieutenant. Now, I think on a normal week, sure, let's do it. It's not a problem. The thing that's immediately in my mind is, man, that's a lot of interrupts. All of these mobs do something that needs to be interrupted effectively. And obviously, if you miss the lieutenant, you're going to have a serious issue on your hands. And it's not necessarily a problem like from a theoretical standpoint, though. It's like, yeah, okay, just dedicate 2 people to interrupt the fire lieutenant, and then every other interrupt and stun can go towards these mobs. That sounds great on paper. That is not going to happen in a PUG. It's just not ever going to happen. I mean, very, very, very unlikely in my experience. But the bigger issue is not that people might miss their assigned interrupts, it's that they might take someone else's. And that's exactly what we wipe to here. We have plenty of interrupts. We have a Resto Druid, a Resto Shaman as well, so they can interrupt. And somehow we all don't interrupt and we wipe. So why does that happen? It happens because we try to interrupt things that we shouldn't be trying to interrupt. It happens because we all try to do something that we thought was the right play and we make the wrong play. And it's just a complete lack of communication. And that lack of communication is a result of me being a little timid and a little bit concerned about what they're recommending. So, again, they're recommending me pulling all of these mobs together, and that is with inspiring. This was actually brought up, and I had to remind them that there was inspiring in the group. So they said, okay, don't do it. We'll just kill the mob with inspiring and then combine it. And so the one guy was like, oh, CC it and then pull it. And it's like, no, you can't risk it. If it breaks, it's over, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, that's actually a good point. So instead, what we're going to do here is we're going to attack this pack first. They're going to go insanely, pop all their CDs, every single thing committed here. And we're just going to kill the skull, and then we're going to move on. Now, so your typical scenario unfolds here. Everybody pops all their CDs, and the pack is just getting melted. Like, I mean, the mobs are all at 50% effectively, like on average. All of the 3 mobs are almost dead. So at this point, I'm like, should we even stick to this plan? And me in the future? No. Just kill the pack. Like, seriously, stop worrying about it. Just kill the pack. But I'm like, so like it's almost like I'm like trying to like impress these guys. Like, hey, I'm cool and edgy too. I could talk about cocaine in a Mythic Plus key. I could go pull all these packs you want me to pull. You know what I mean? It's like, just stop. Don't succumb to the peer pressure. It's a bad decision. And this is ultimately the result of it. So watch this. So again, I know these mobs casting spells that are dangerous. And I know, it should be interrupted. We don't actually have a single interrupt on table here, but I interrupt that, okay? So here's the first mistake. First of all, both of us interrupt this. So me and the shaman both interrupt a spell that just frankly doesn't need to be interrupted. This is a tyrannical week. The danger is past. Now that we could actually stun and stuff, these mobs are not going to be a problem. But so I've interrupted. 14 seconds on my interrupt, whatever. And now I'm thinking like, oh, but they wanted me to pull all of it. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I'm kind of like pacing myself. So you probably can't really tell, but like this is what's going through my head. I interrupt there and I immediately regret it. I'm like, oh no, they wanted me to pull the mob. Now I don't have my interrupt. So let's just wait. So I'm kind of like sitting there like, oh, I'll go grip that mob back. You know what I mean? So now we pull it. And at this point, I think, okay, he's going to do some other things. He's going to take a second or two to get to me. I will have my interrupt by the time the first cast comes up, and I will get the first interrupt, and we will be all set. And it does not happen. So, and again, it's all the result of me kicking a cast that I did not need to kick, and doing a pull that I definitely should not have done, considering how low the mobs were. And yeah, frankly, just listening to people who did not have my best interest in mind when they were offering suggestions. But it's my fault. I, succumb to the peer pressure and we make this mistake. So you will see 1.8 seconds on Inferno, 2 seconds on my cast. I still, at this point in my head, am convinced that I will get this cast. I'm obviously don't have the ability to slow it down and look at it exactly that to realize that I'm 0.2 seconds away from being able to get this cast. But I'm still like, oh, I'm getting this cast 100%. So I am probably spamming. You can't, yeah, because it's stupid the way it is, but I'm spamming the key. The cast is over. So I now interrupt nothing. The warrior gets that interrupt. Okay. I interrupt nothing. I just use my interrupt on the mob that is done casting the spell. So I don't even get the kick because I'm so focused on getting that kick that I'm completely unaware that I don't actually have the ability to get it and then waste my kick. All right. So now we have one interrupt left. We have a shaman who can easily save this. Okay. And he doesn't kick. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think, so the original plan was for me to go, then Warrior to go on the incinerator. And like I said, this was talked about for like minutes ahead of time. And me kicking there ruins the whole thing. Like we had that plan. We were going to alternate one way or the other. So he got his first one, no problem. And I think he says, I think he actually says that he's like, why did you wait until the last second? Yeah, Tank, why didn't you kick the first one? And it's like, okay, so the answer to that is I fucked up. Like I just straight up made a mistake. And I said I did. And he said you did. I said you did too. Well, I'm actually wrong about that because I did kick it, but it was after the cast was over, regardless. And yeah, so then I accurately point out that um, I thought I knew what I was doing, but I didn't. Regardless, it's a very teachable moment, and I think everybody should learn from this mistake because that's it. We're literally not even 3 full minutes. Look at this. Not even 3 full minutes into this key, and it's a disband. So we did this aggressive strategy of skipping the mobs, okay, which I do think was the right choice, obviously. But I will say the warlock was hesitant to agree to do it, and apparently he had just the reason he was hesitant to do it was because he had just done this key on 22 and failed on the way over because people got quacked while they were running with the invis pot, which will break you out of the invis pot. And the group probably disbanded within 2 minutes again. So unfortunate. He probably also was the first person to leave. I mean, look, there's no reason we couldn't continue this. Like, legitimately, we could have continued this and probably still had a chance to upgrade the key, but everybody wants to leave on first sight. So that's a whole different story. But regardless, we'll just assume that there was no reason to continue, I guess. So mistake was like multiple layers here. A lot of social stuff going on, stuff that makes me very uncomfortable, very childish conversations happening that make me think like it's almost like they're peacocking, right? Is that the thing they say? Like, oh, we're all trying to act like we're better than we are, so we say really dumb and aggressive and stupid things about, it's just like the language that it's getting used. It's like, I don't know, man. It's just very, it doesn't feel very like an adult is speaking the words. I mean, that always kind of puts me on edge. And then I succumb to the peer pressure and just make multiple bad decisions in a row. Like I said, the big decision here is pulling this mob. There's no reason to pull the lieutenant at this point. Absolutely no reason. It would have not. It's not even going to speed up the pack because everything's over. Like the 25K that dude just did, that's it. It's over now. His damage is no longer going up. So me pulling that now does not speed this dungeon up at all, and it invites in a circumstance that we cannot. We then the double interrupt there, but again, it's all salvageable. All we need was the healer to kick. All we need is the healer to recognize that he is the only kick, and he doesn't get it. But all these other kicks are on CD. So when did these guys use their kicks? So there's more to it than that. It looks like actually we used 3 interrupts. Yes, I think the mage actually. Yes, he also tries to. Wow, I didn't even notice that until right now. So we actually waste 3 interrupts on the first cast of the incinerator. That's pretty nuts, man. What a crazy mistake. I hope that you guys will be able to learn from something like this. My advice to you is just play your game. Play the way that you are the most comfortable. And honestly, like, yeah, people have criticized me in the past about being like not flexible as a tank. But it's like I don't really I just don't care, man. I hate to say it. It sounds really dumb to say, but it's like I just don't care about your criticism of this. I know exactly what I need to do at every moment in this key, and inviting new variables into it, this is the kind of result that you get. Like we could have easily just done this slowly and I would have never had a chance. Like we've never wiped there, not once. But anyway, I hope that this kind of thing can help you guys learn because this is what it's like tanking. This is what pugging tanking is like. You have to be like a psychological expert too, as well as a video game expert. You need to know what kind of mistakes are possible and you need to guard against them. So if you guys have any questions or any commentary on this, I look forward to hearing it. But yeah, again, I hope that it helps you guys learn and become better pug tanks.